Welcome back to Success is Weird and Messy, the podcast where I, Kathleen Gabriel, talk with business owners about what happens when you carve your own path and how they turned obstacles into opportunities. Today, I'm talking with Dina Yerex, the founder of Accord Bookkeeping. Dina, welcome.
Thank you, Kathleen, and thank you for having me on today.
Oh, I'm thrilled to see you. I uh I always love spending time with you, and I'm so glad that you're here to talk about Accord and to talk about bookkeeping in general. So every company needs a bookkeeper. I know this, you know this. Tell me more
Mhm.
about your business.
We work with small businesses and we meet businesses where they're at. So if a business has never ever had their books on a computer before, we're happy to create that set of books electronically for them. Anything from there to the business where somebody has been doing the bookkeeping on QuickBooks Online and we're just taking it over because they've gotten too busy or maybe they've let it go for a while. We're doing the cleanup, something like that. And so I have businesses who say, hey, you just do it all and I'll talk to you. I don't even want to see you except for once a quarter.
Yep.
And that's okay. And then I have other businesses who say, I want to do the bulk of this myself, but I want you kind of following behind me, making sure that I've got everything correct, that everything looks complete and accurate. And so I just really work hard to meet that person with what it is they are wanting and needing for them to feel successful with their business.
That's fantastic because one of the things that I don't know that I see in the operational support world of
Mhm,
businesses is that sometimes you get services that say, "Hey, I do one thing. I
mhm,
will only do this one thing and you must do it my way or we can't work together." And I
mhm,
love hearing people say, "I'm here for you. I'm here
mhm,
for you, the business, to make sure that what you're doing is the right thing."
mhm.
Because I mean, I'm sure that there's some things that are standard. I'm sure that there are some things that, like, look, we all got to file our taxes. So this has got to be
Yeah.
clean for taxes, however we get there.
Right. The goal is to have those clean books, not just for taxes, but also for the business owners to be able to make informed decisions and for the business owners to be able to obtain financing, sell the business when they get ready. We want to have that clean and accurate set of books running, not just, oh, we clean it up for this year, but for years on end. We want to provide that for them.
That's really true because bookkeeping is one of those foundational things that can get overlooked in a weird way because it's so foundational. Of, well, it's always just kind of there, so I'm sure it's fine.
Mhm.
Which is not necessarily the case. I mean, it's fine if you've got someone actually working it, but not necessarily the case if, I don't know, if I was doing my own books, disaster.
Well, there's this sense of like, well, my checking account is there and it still has money in it and everybody's getting paid, so we're all right. And to some extent, that's true. And yet, are you okay taxes wise? Are you okay as far as building your business and having the knowledge about your finances to be able to take the steps you need to build your business, to eliminate inefficiencies or over expenditures and move forward, focusing your resources on what you want to use them for as far as building that business?
Yeah, absolutely. It goes beyond that tactical sort of block and tackling of
Mhm,
numbers and gets into strategically what are we trying to accomplish here and what are the
mhm.
resources we have to do it. And those numbers will tell a real story.
They will. And you have to make sure that they're telling you the truth.
Yeah,
Uh,
isn't that the way?
yes, yes.
Yeah.
And another major aspect that people overlook in small business sometimes is about making sure that whoever is managing money is doing that appropriately and without oversight. Unfortunately, I used to work with people when I was a therapist. I worked with people who had gambling problems, and often our clients were facing legal consequences for having had access to money in a small business or an HOA or a PTA or something where they were treasurer. And there was nobody overseeing until, oh my goodness, they had taken thousands of dollars from these organizations.
Oh, I had never considered that aspect of it. But
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
course.
Yeah. I have a family member who had a veterinary practice, and their office manager was able to take $30,000 from them before they noticed it.
Oh, and I've
Yeah.
dealt with fraud in various ways because,
Yeah.
you stay in human resources long enough, you're going to be dealing with all kinds of different employee
Hmm.
problems. And so
Yeah.
I've definitely thought of fraud and embezzlement on the employee side and on the, I don't know, ethics side, background checks,
Hmm.
work checks, that sort of thing. I hadn't really thought about it in terms of, just your basic, you're on an HOA together, you're in a community group together, that still needs some sort of genuine oversight
Hmm.
because otherwise you literally just don't know.
Yeah. Right.
And you just said in the course of that, you used to be a therapist. Now I know this about you. That was one of the reasons I wanted to talk to you today, was because you have made a really big pivot in your
Hmm.
business career,
Hmm.
going from being a counselor, a therapist, into being a bookkeeper.
Hmm.
Tell me about that journey and what led you to where you are right now.
Well, actually, it was more of a pivot back because I graduated from my undergrad with a degree in psychology, which we all know is very useful as an undergraduate degree.
I graduated with a degree in dramatic art. Don't talk to me about usefulness.
Now we just need a philosophy major and it will be all fine. So,
We'll be set.
so I didn't really have a path. I had some things I thought I might be interested in, but I ended up being a partner with, full disclosure, my now ex-husband and a business partner of ours, and the three of us founded a Silicon Valley software firm back in the 1990s. And those two had MBAs, but everybody was like, who's going to handle the bookkeeping? And they looked at each other and they go, well, I don't balance the checkbook and I don't balance the checkbook. I was like, well, I guess I'm it.
Yep.
So I learned bookkeeping from our CPA, and it really just spoke to me. I had never had a bookkeeping or accounting course, but I was just like, oh, this makes sense. My brain is just very mathematical. We took that company over the course of 4 years from just the three of us part-time to 15 employees, all working, most working remotely. And we merged with a publicly traded company. That was quite a wild ride. I did all of the bookkeeping, all the legal coordination, and it was just a really fantastic experience. There were days when I was like, who said I'm allowed to do this stuff because it seems very serious. But I really did enjoy that aspect of kind of providing that base for the company where we were looking at our numbers all the time and trying to manage our cash flow and all of that. And so that was really something that I enjoyed, but then it came to an end and I was like, what do I want to do? I decided I wanted to become a therapist. So I went back to school and eventually got into private practice. I was in private practice for about 17 years, working as a therapist for over 20 years. And so I really enjoyed it until COVID hit. And then it was like I am 7 or 8 hours a day on this video screen.
Yep.
And I didn't get the opportunity to meet my clients in person anymore. And it was just really turned into a grind.
Yeah, I imagine.
I started to get really burned out. So that's when I said, let me dust off my bookkeeping skills again.
Yeah, and honestly, 17 years is a good go at a career. Like
Mhm.
you went to school for
Mhm.
the thing, you did the thing
Mhm.
for a very long time.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so, and absolutely, I can understand. I think a lot of therapists, a lot of teachers, a lot of people in that sort of direct support work were
Mhm.
getting really burnt out
Yeah.
at and after COVID. So it makes sense that maybe that wasn't the right fit anymore.
It was really hard though, because I still enjoyed talking to my clients so much. So I would get
Yeah.
into the therapy session and it was like my brain would go, the rest of the world goes away. I focus in and I just enjoyed working with my clients. But then you come out of that therapy session and there's like, oh, there's a progress note to be written, the insurance company to be called, and blah, 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 blah. And that got to be very wearing. If I could have just at that point turned off the computer and said, hey, it was awesome to work with my clients today, I
Yep.
probably would still be a therapist. But
Yeah.
that was not the truth. So yeah, that's what made it very hard. And that's what I like about bookkeeping is being able to focus in on something and work on it. And then it sits there until I am able to work on it again, which is fantastic.
Yeah, there really is something to say about work not following you home,
Yeah.
especially when you work from home.
Hmm. Yeah,
That it's hard to set those boundaries up.
for sure.
And if it's work that just kind of never ends,
Hmm.
and the work that you've done with your clients then requires all this extra stuff that honestly any medical and medical adjacent work,
Hmm.
it just has.
Yeah, absolutely.
And and so I can totally see why that would, be a good shift. And have you taken any other lessons from your therapy practice into your accounting practice?
Lessons, Kathleen. All of the times that I thought of leaving therapy, I just kept saying to myself, everything I have learned is going to come in so handy wherever I go. Being a therapist is almost it's becomes part of who you are and how you move through the world. And so like right now I'm helping my mother sort through some financial stuff and she's very slow on the computer and stuff. And so I'm using my therapeutic patience and presence as we go through that. And so it's so useful everywhere. But with bookkeeping, really a lot of my clients come to me and they say, I'm so embarrassed or I'm really
Mm,
not sure I want anybody to see my books because they're such a mess. And
yeah.
I can 100% say there's no judgment here. Like I have seen and heard just about everything under the sun. You are not going to shock me, right? I am here to help. And that's what I really love about having been a therapist is really learning to clear out all of that negative, yucky judgment that we tend to carry around as humans for
Yeah.
various reasons. And being able to just say, hey, where is this person? And how can I be of assistance to them at this moment? Reassuring them, like, there's an answer to this. We can take care of this. Or if I'm not the bookkeeper for them, if they're working on a different platform or they want something different than what I offer, like, hey, I can help you get to somebody who will fit better for you. And so just being able to be there for my clients in that way, really presenting as I am here to be of help to you, whatever that might look like in this situation.
Yeah, and honestly, you bring up a great point that everything about business, especially if you are the business owner, you started this business, it's extremely personal. Everything about it has bigger feelings, it has bigger effects because this is our life and we're putting ourselves out there.
Mm-hmm.
And I absolutely can see people having some shame around things that, of course, not everything's perfect. And you can say that real easily about other people.
Mm-hmm.
But saying it about yourself and your business is so much harder. It's so much harder to say, oh, yeah, honestly, probably everyone's books are a little messed up, but, my books are messed up. And I don't
Mm-hmm.
want anyone to really know that.
Yeah, there is that, and I use the metaphor. I'm going to date myself here, but if you ever watch the show Friends,
Yeah, of course.
and okay, so Monica Geller was like this control freak, and she's very kind of almost obsessive compulsive, and so everything is neat and everything's beautiful and everything's perfect, and then Chandler wants to open the closet door, and she's
Yeah.
like, oh no 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 no, you can't open that closet door, and he eventually does, and it's just a hot mess. And so I
Yeah.
tell my clients, we all have that closet. We do. And it, depends from person to person where that closet is, what it involves, but we all have that closet. And some people's closet is their set of books for their business, and that's okay. That's why I'm here.
Yeah,
Hmm.
absolutely. And honestly, I think that's a refreshing way of looking at it. Of and I honestly I will say this to my clients as well, because I will get panicked calls saying,
Mm.
I don't
Yeah.
know what I'm doing here. I
Mm.
didn't know that this would be a problem. I have an
Mhm.
employee doing some wild thing,
Right.
or something that's not even wild, but I don't even know how to manage it. And the thing I always start from is we're all just doing our best. There's no one here with one magic answer. There's no one here with, oh, that person knows all the ways to be in business and they are the obvious success story that will always repeat. No,
Mm.
we're all just doing our best. And
Hmm.
at a certain point, we're all going to reach those points of, I don't know what to do about this. And that's
Hmm.
when you bring in help,
Hmm.
you know?
Yes. And I love that it so normalizes the things that we don't know, the things that we haven't learned yet, just the places where we feel really vulnerable, and that
Yeah.
it's okay to have those places, but finding trusted partners to work with you through them. Because unfortunately, that is one thing that I did learn in my therapeutic career, is that there are people who will exploit a vulnerability that you show. And so,
Yeah.
of course, your clients need to trust you, my clients need to trust me. These are vulnerable things that our clients show us.
Yeah. I mean, I think it starts with ethics and values. And you always kind of hope that the people that you're going to engage with any kind of support or partnership or whatever business
Mhm.
relationship in your business, that they're going to have an ethical foundation that you can trust, and some do and some don't.
Yes.
So finding those people that you can trust, that you, because you're genuinely trusting your business to these support people. When
Mhm.
people come to me for HR, they are trusting that I will give them good advice that has good outcomes.
Right.
And same with bookkeeping. People are
Mhm.
trusting you to make sure that their books are in order for good outcomes,
Yeah.
or at least knowledge outcomes.
Right. And I'm glad you brought up that ethics piece, because it is weird for me being in a profession where, I mean, of course, there's like very clear ethics. You don't transfer your client's money to your own account, kind of thing. Um,
Yeah,
but there isn't a licensing process for bookkeepers. There's not certific I mean, you can get a certification, but it's not like when I was a counselor, I had to have a state license. I had to carry all this insurance. If anything happened, I could be pulled up in front of the board and I had to answer to them, or I could be sued. I mean, I guess I could be sued as a bookkeeper too. But I mean, there was so much emphasis on ethics and very specific rules to follow in counseling, maybe because it's such a messy kind of profession, and bookkeeping's a lot more clear cut, but I still bring that ethics approach that I learned in counseling to my bookkeeping. The first one is do no harm, right?
yeah,
You don't hurt your clients.
yeah,
So yeah, and then on and on about having integrity, and I think that is something that has really served me well over the years. And as I've developed as a person through the decades, what that looks like has become so much more clear over time, and will probably continue to become more and more clear. Kind of scares me. Like, what don't I know now that I'll know 10 years from now? And I'll be like, oh, I thought I knew what I was doing, kind of thing.
yep. That goes to my own personal philosophy of, if I don't look back on the decades of my life and say, "Ugh, man, I didn't know this thing. Oh,
Mhm. Mhm.
if I don't have some sort of feeling from, oh, 10 years ago me really didn't know this thing, then I'm
Mhm.
going to be worried because that means
Yeah.
I'm not learning.
That means you're in the Dunning-Kruger club, and you don't want to
Yes,
be in the Dunning-Kruger
that's
club.
a terrible club to be in.
No, but the problem is you don't know you're in it, and that's a bummer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Oh my goodness.
with everything that you're seeing in bookkeeping, especially
Mhm.
because you started off, you know, old school Silicon Valley startup,
Yeah.
and now we're here.
Oof.
What sort of strategies, changes,
Mhm.
forecastings, like what has changed in bookkeeping and what do you see for kind of how people should continue on with how they even approach bookkeeping?
Ooh, well, what has changed is wow, the software is so much more powerful than it used to be.
Oh my God, yes.
Yes. And uh, the industry is really going to online solutions versus the desktop solution. So, like Intuit kicked us all off of our desktop versions, me
And good for
included.
them.
Good for them, but then you have the problem was the desktop version was very intuitive. And so
Yeah.
you had a lot of people doing their own bookkeeping. And now I get a lot of calls from people going, oh my gosh, this online thing, I totally don't get it. And I'm like, I totally hear you because that was me when I first switched on to the online version. I was like, I feel like I'm flying blind. This is crazy.
Yep.
But it really requires a little more knowledge of bookkeeping principles than the desktop version. So I have a lot of clients who are kind of struggling with it. So there's that. The other thing, everything is moving to so much more virtual kinds of services. So somebody like me, I can do a 100% remote bookkeeping company very easily. And that is now kind of the new bookkeepers coming on. Most of us are 100% remote. And so,
Yeah.
as you can see, I am not in a home. I am in my trailer, and this is my home and my travel and everything. So, I love being able to work from wherever I am. I'm in the Ozarks in Missouri right now.
Beautiful.
And yes, it is pretty here, but I'm glad I'm not staying long because it's going to get hot. So, that's the awesome thing. I can go wherever I want. I'm like, it's too hot here. I'm going to go somewhere else. So that's fabulous. And I wouldn't have been able to do this, I think, um, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, it would have been a lot harder because it would have had to involve not just electronic file transfers, but a lot of papers going back and forth. And some clients still want that. And that's where I want to push them towards somebody who does have a sticks and bricks office. But definitely remote is becoming more and more popular. AI is going to become a bigger and bigger thing. They're building it into the Intuit products. But that's one of my next things is learning how is this going to impact bookkeeping? How can I use it to streamline my processes? Because everybody I've talked to has said, we will never be 100% replaceable
Yeah.
because having a human set of eyes on things is very important. However, a lot of the workflows that we've been doing can be automated.
Yeah.
And so whereas I used to have to enter everything by hand, I now just download it from the bank and it's fantastic. So keeping up with those is going to be important. And I have to say that is somewhere that I really need to put some resources over the next year or so to get up to speed on that.
Yeah, I think we're all managing that.
Hmm.
There was an era in which, fully remote human resources sounded preposterous.
Hmm.
That's the bulk of my business now,
Yeah.
especially post-pandemic,
Yes.
when individual people who had the choice and ability to do so had kind of said, I am going to stay home.
Hmm.
And I think you're absolutely bang on about AI.
Hmm.
It is not just the future, it is the now.
Yeah.
And as much as sort of generative AI was mocked for, generating art with, 12 heads and 10 fingers and whatever,
Yes.
um, there is also the thing of like, I don't know, everyone I know on Zoom has some sort of automatic note taker now.
Hmm.
That's
Yeah.
AI.
Absolutely.
And is it 100% accurate? Nah, but that doesn't matter. It is such a useful tool that people are really locking into it and it
Hmm.
is developing faster and faster. So I can only imagine that that's going to be an impact in everyone's life.
Hmm.
And so it's a matter of how do we genuinely use it to best advantage?
Hmm.
Just like any new technology, any new
Yeah.
tool.
Yeah. Well, and another thing that is starting to take place is that people like myself, we're no longer purely bookkeepers because
Yeah.
bookkeepers traditionally are just about entering the debits and credits. And
Yeah.
then you hand it over to an accountant who then does the more advanced work. And so we're getting more and more into that advanced work because there's not as much work just entering the debits and credits anymore. And so we're working towards a shift in the industry where we're not being called bookkeepers or accountants, we're calling our services client advisory services. And so that's something that I'm improving my offerings is helping clients do more of what I already know how to do a little bit of, but doing more of the forecasting and the budgeting and the planning. And so really rounding it out so that it's not just, okay, here's your books, you figure out what they mean. it's,
Yeah.
it's here's what they mean, or tell me about what you want to do or what questions you have about your business that we might be able to find the answers to in this set of books here.
And that's huge
Hmm.
because I've said time and time again, people go into business because they know how to do what they're going into business for,
Yeah.
not because they're experts in all of the aspects of business operations.
Oh.
And you can't, unless that's something that you are an expert in, which some
Hmm.
people are, going in and saying, okay, these are all my numbers. What do I
Hmm.
actually do with that? Having someone there to say, I can be your interpreter, I can be
Hmm.
your guide,
Hmm.
that's extraordinarily helpful.
Yeah, we all need other businesses because as you were saying that, I was thinking, yeah, for some people trying to do their own bookkeeping, it's like me trying to do my own social media. It just doesn't work very
Yeah,
well. So, yeah.
yeah. And that's exactly it. Like when you're a solopreneur, you start off doing everything and you start
Hmm.
off saying,
Yes.
okay, well, I'm my own sales and marketing
Hmm.
and social media and bookkeeping and hopefully you reach a point where you can say, well, I can bring on some fractional support here and there.
Yeah.
I can bring
Yeah.
on a virtual assistant and a bookkeeper and people who can really make a difference so that now I can focus on the business side of my business.
Hmm.
And that's how businesses grow. It's
Hmm.
really hard to grow when you're doing everything yourself.
Well, and also the expense of possibly doing everything yourself, not just in time and opportunity costs, but also in real problems that can crop up. Like you were talking about, okay, there can be some HR issues that can get very expensive for
Yeah.
businesses. Likewise, bookkeeping, if you're not doing it accurately, thoroughly, that can get expensive if you're not getting good tax advice, which of course I don't give tax advice, but I partner with CPAs to give that tax advice. But if you don't even know what advice you're looking for, bookkeepers can bring significant amount of value in helping you make sure that you're doing everything you need to do as far as reporting and things, looking over tax returns, making sure that, oh, okay, yep, these numbers match my numbers to make sure that you don't have any inaccuracies in either the books or the tax returns kinds of things. That can be very valuable. It can be, there can be a lot of savings to a business.
Absolutely. And actually, good to point out, um, accountants, your CPAs,
Mhm.
they're the ones who are going to be looking at your taxes and filing and doing
Yeah.
all of that stuff. But they
Mhm.
need all of that information from bookkeepers because
Mhm.
they don't do that side. They don't do that. They don't, CPAs don't do your books.
Some CPAs do your books. I know some CPAs who have in-house bookkeepers. I know some
Yep.
CPAs who will do your books. But in general, yeah, they do the taxes. You definitely don't want me doing your taxes. And for a lot of CPAs, you don't want them doing your books. Yes.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And so it's good to know just like going in, all right, I know I need, generally speaking, this kind of support. Where
Hmm.
do I even find it and how do I get it?
Yeah.
Again, it's nice to have a business advisor style bookkeeper who can
Hmm.
say, hey, this is my scope of service and this is how you work with me.
Hmm.
But then I can help you find other services
Yes.
beyond my scope. And I do that all the time in HR. There are
Yeah.
so many things that people come to me that I simply don't do.
Hmm.
And it's good to have,
Right.
trusted people that I can refer out to and say, hey, these are people you might want to talk to for that.
Yes. And same here.
Yeah,
CPA, you for HR, definitely important to have
absolutely.
those resources for clients.
Yeah, all the
Mhm.
time.
Mhm.
Well, I want to ask the final question that I ask everybody, which is, Dina, how do you define success?
Oh, and you told me you were going to ask me this question. I was like, how do I make this succinct? I have no idea, but I think for me, having been a therapist for so long, I have known people who were successful in such a variety of ways. So sometimes there's a person who, for them, success is simply being able to afford a car because nobody else in their family has ever been able to do that. Or you get somebody who's very successful on the outside, but then their messy Monica closet is their personal life and they're miserable on the inside. And so when I'm like, okay, well, what does this mean? And I guess for me, success is about, and I'm not going to know till the end of my life, it's about being able to look back on your life and being able to say, hey, I think I spent some good time with people, adding to others' lives, being a good steward of those who are entrusted to me, and making a difference in the world, hopefully leaving the world a better place, hopefully minimizing the harm that we do, because we all inadvertently do harm. And so being able to, I guess, at the end of my life, I hope to be able to rest easy and say, okay, I think I really tried as hard as I could to do the best that I could.
That is really beautiful. I like that definition a lot.
Thank you.
So, Dina Yerex, thank you again for joining me today. Where should people find you online?
Thank you for having me, Kathleen.
Of
And
course.
online, my website is www.accord, ACCORD, and then the abbreviation for bookkeeping, BKPG, because I couldn't afford the whole thing. That was way too expensive of a URL for me to buy. So accordbkpg.com.
I love that. Well, I will have that link to Dina's website in the show notes. Thank you, everyone, for listening. You can find Success is Weird and Messy wherever you get your podcasts. And it helps us so much if you follow, rate, and review. And if you like the show, tell a friend. We'll see you next week.